Hey folks, Nick Coos was here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for my comments, likes, shares, subscriptions, all that stuff. Super appreciative. I'm really sorry I haven't really put a whole lot on my YouTube channel over the past, well, 5-6 months. Just been really busy between tournaments and guiding and work and all that stuff. It's just hard, and I'm a perfectionist, and I tried to do a few little things, and it didn't really work out. So having said all that, back at it again over the winter time here. Going to pump out a lot of stuff. On my Instagram account, I have something that I came up with this year that's called a Megabass Minute. It's a 60-second video about a product, about a technique, about rods, about new stuff coming out, everything that encompasses Megabass. I have it in there. So what I thought I'd do is some of these subjects can get pretty detailed, and I only have 60 seconds to put it in there. So I'm doing something on my YouTube channel called a Megabass Minute extended version, which is basically getting into more details and stuff about what I talked about, just because I can't do it all in 60 seconds. Having said that, here we go. We're going to start our first one here. I did a 3-part series on Squarebills, so I'm going to do it all right now. Still going to try and put as much information as I can without boring you guys with details that don't really matter. So here we go. The first one, a Megabass Minute extended version, Squarebill crankbaits. Here we go. So first one I want to talk to you about is the Knuckle LD right here. So a couple key features about it. First of all, thin circuit board lip, still very durable, but thin lip. It's a small bait, 3/8 ounce, compact, really good up north here in our clear waters. You're going to get bit more with these small compact crankbaits than you will those big bulky loud ones. Just a lot of times will turn fish off. When they're super aggressive, those baits can produce strikes, but when they're just off or not really in the mood, these small subtle baits are going to get bit more. Other thing it comes with is a heavy duty swivel in the front. What that does is that hook will spin, not allowing any leverage for that fish when it jumps or whatever to get rid of those hooks, which happens a lot with trebles. So really, really cool feature. The thing about this circuit board lip, couple things it's going to do. It's super thin, so it really slices through the water, not really giving you a lot of pull, not a lot of drag in the water, just a very natural tight wobble. The other thing it's going to give you is super accurate casts. When we're throwing Squarebills, we're fishing a lot of shoreline cover, docks, riprap, submerged trees, logs, all that stuff that you find shoreline cover. A Squarebill really is great. Because of that squared off lip, it just has really great deflection capabilities, keeping these treble hooks away from getting hung up. And it really excels around that hard cover. I fish it in around weeds too, no question about it. You can rip it off with the right rod, but it really does excel in hard cover. Bounces off a log, bounces off rocks, just gives you very little hangups. That's why it's so effective. So the other thing about that lip is it's so thin, it really gives you accurate casts when you're target fishing. You're trying to get on the edge of that dock. You're trying to hit that log just exactly right. It just cuts through the air real nicely, not really picking up any wind or getting that bait to push to the left or right. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference when you're target fishing. So I love it for that. I love this bait around docks, trying to get on the edge of those pilings, big rocks and stuff like that. All the stuff I talk about, accurate casting, target fishing, really does a great job. And you see, it's a square bill, but it's a little bit rounded in the front, as you can see here. So when it hits something, it'll deflect off to the left or off to the right, exaggerating that roll, triggering lots of bites. Again, small, compact, love it in clear water situations. Really, really good bait. Great both in cold. Because of that type water, I catch fish in cold water situations, and then again in the summertime I can pick up the pace and still get bit on this bait. Setup for this bait, really, bait caster, I love it. You can get away with spinning gear, but I prefer bait caster, 10 to 12 pound test. This bait is great. I don't love it in super heavy cover, like submerged trees and stuff like that. Because of that rounded lip, I find I'll get hung up a little bit more with this bait than a traditional squared off Squarebill. But I like it in single stuff, again, pilings, that one log, a big boulder, stuff like that, you know, or on a rock flat, you know, stuff like that, riprap along that edge, running it down. It's a 3 to 5 foot depth bait, depending on what pound test you have. When it comes to rods, I like a shorter rod when I'm target fishing. Something 6'8", 6'11". That shorter rod's going to give me real accurate casts. I prefer longer rods when I'm fishing flats, you know, more open water stuff where I'm not really trying to cast to a target. So shorter rod in that sense, and then going longer when I'm looking more like flats or break line, stuff like that. So that's the LD Knuckle, real great bait, catch a lot of fish on it, it's fantastic. So the next one I'm going to talk to you about is the Sonic side. So again, now this one has a circuit board lip, a little bit thicker, and it's a larger profile bait. This is a 1/2 ounce bait, allows you to make longer casts. But the key to this bait is that flat side. You can see this is a real true flat side crankbait, really great in cold water situations, pre-spawn. You know, first warming trend that comes up and those fish start to move along shorelines, up on flats. I love this bait for that reason. Really, really tight, subtle wobble. Again, fixed weighted system like the Knuckle LD, so you're not really getting any noise here. They're fixed in there. So it's great in clear water. You can use it in dirty water too. You know, of course, I'm going to change the color up and stuff like that, which Megabass has so many colors. But I love this bait in clear to stain water, early season. This bait is money. It's a little bit deeper, dives down, you know, down as deep as 7 feet, maybe even a little bit deeper. So if you're targeting like wood that's off a steep shoreline, stuff like that, a rock on a steep shoreline, I love it. Just line your boat up with the edge and cast right down to that circuit board lip. Again, it's going to bounce. Now this one's got more traditional, real flat, so it's going to really bounce off that stuff. And again, the key to getting out of cover, and we'll get into more of that in the S-Crank, but with a Squarebill is real slow retrieves, you know, especially when you're fishing in thicker stuff. When you're fishing more scattered stuff, you can get away with retrieving that a little bit faster and it'll bounce off and keep going. But when you have a lot of limbs and stuff like that, if you retrieve that too fast, you know, when it bounces off something, that hook's going to get caught on something and you're snagged. It's better to go to slower gear ratios in that sense, you know, like a 5 to 8 up to 6 to 3. You know, I love that 6.3 gear ratio on the Daiwa Tatula 100 LT or SVTW. Just a great all-around reel for that. Great casting reel. Helps with that accuracy. No backlashes. And that slower retrieve is going to get them. When I want to speed up, I'll go as high as 7.1. So again, Sonic side, bigger profile bait. You know, if you're fishing in lakes that have perch, sunfish, stuff like that, or a larger shad, I like this bait when those fish are looking for something bigger. This gets them. Sonic side, great little bait. Got to check it out. Then last but not least, of course, we got the S-Crank. You go right here. So this was one of the first ones that came out. Key features about the S-Crank, again, very squared off lip, a little bit larger. So I love this bait, short compact bait around heavy cover. Love it around submerged trees, brush piles, buck brush that's in the water, log jams, all that stuff. With a real slow retrieve, you can crawl this bait over stuff and not get hung up as much. Really, really good stuff. I was down in Kentucky years ago when I first got on with Megabass, and we were on Kentucky Lake, and it was high water, so I was fishing a lot of those brush piles or buck brush that was out of the water in the summertime, but under the water, and crawling this bait. Just don't get hang up. The key is a really slow retrieve. So again, going slower to a 6.3 when you're fishing heavy cover, even slower, 5.8, even better. And then, you know, if you're fishing more open stuff, you can go a little bit faster. The key to this bait, the cool thing about this bait, a couple things. Comes in 3 sizes. This is a 1.2, the 1.5, and then of course the big 2.0, which allows you to fish an array of different situations. If you're fishing murkier or dirtier water, you can go to the larger one. It's going to displace more water. If you're fishing a lake that's got bigger stuff, bigger sunfish and stuff like that, the larger version is going to get a bit more, and big fish bites is what you're going to get with this. You could see the difference between the 2.0 and the 1.2. Drastic change right there. So that's the one thing. The other thing, the key thing is to look at the shape of that head. So I'll show you from that angle. Look right at the front of the nose, and then again right there. What this will do is as you're retrieving this bait, and I like to say that it really works better when you retrieve it a little bit faster. But what happens is as you're retrieving it at a faster clip, the water will hit that. It almost has a cup to it. I don't know if you can see it right there, but it almost has a cup, and it'll push the bait off to the left or to the right, kind of giving it that deflection characteristic without hitting anything. So if I'm fishing big flats, rock weed, sand weed, I love this bait for covering water in the summertime. I can cover tons of water. I can get to the right size bait depending on the lake I'm fishing. And I can get behind guys that are traditionally throwing stuff like chatterbaits, spinner baits, and come in with this little small crankbait or just a crankbait in general and get bit when guys are throwing different things. Gives that fish a little bit different look, a little bit different profile, different feel. Now they are fixed weights, but they're in a chamber that kind of, you can hear that. It gives you a little bit of a light knock, so you get a little bit of noise. I like it in staying the dirty water. I catch fish in clear water as well, but I really prefer this bait. It's a little bit more aggressive. Although it has a tight wobble, has a little bit of a roll to it, I really prefer it in stained water. I get bit more. The S-Crank, man, I've caught lots of fish on it. Spring, summer, fall, lots of big fish on it. Some of my pictures on my Instagram, you'll see with this S-Crank, it's been money on both smallmouth and largemouth. Now, when it comes to rod selection, again, doesn't matter. I'm looking for shorter rods when I'm target fishing, longer rod when I'm fishing more open flats, going to give me longer casts, better leverage when I hook a fish from a distance away. And again, pound test is a little bit different with the S-Crank. It could be as light as 10 pound with the small one, and then as heavy as 17, 20 if I'm fishing a lot of logs and I'm fishing bigger fish or around a lot of cover where, you know, if you get hung up, you might lose that fish. Get into like 17 to 20 pound test, you have a better chance of getting that fish to the boat. Love this S-Crank. So guys, there we go. Squarebills. You know, a lot of guys up north don't throw crankbaits as much as we should. Let's change the narrative. Gives you another option in areas or in lakes that really don't see a lot of crankbaits. You're going to catch a lot of fish and you're going to get big bites. So there we go. Megabass Minute extended version. Thank you so much for watching. Your host, Nick Kuzvis. See you soon. See you on the water. It's cold out there, but I'll see you soon. Hold up. Sorry. Guys, listen. Nick here with a Megabass Minute extended version, part 2 of 1. With all the stuff I talked about with the Squarebills, I didn't talk about the type of rod. You know, for some people that don't really understand what kind of rod you need for crankbaits, you need something that's a little bit slower. You don't want anything that's extra fast. That's going to fight against that crankbait. It's going to get you snagged more. It's going to get you snagged more, and you're also going to lose more fish. Casting ability is not the same. I like something that's kind of mod to mod fast when I'm looking for crankbait rods. But for guys that kind of want a rod that's going to do a little bit, you know, something more than just crankbait, just make sure you find something with maybe like a medium fast to fast action. You don't want to go extra fast. You don't want that tip to be too quick. You're going to lose some fish. Some other things that you can do to kind of help that is the type of line you use. You know, I like fluorocarbon for most situations, but if I want more stretch and I don't mind floating a bit more, then I might go to a straight mono. Because mono floats, it's going to keep that bait up a little bit more, which can be good in certain situations when I'm trying to achieve maximum depth, and I'm just going to go straight fluorocarbon. But you know, that line is also going to give, you know, braid has very little stretch to it. So that's also going to fight that, you know, with a line that's got a little bit more stretch to it. It's going to help you when that fish jumps or when you're trying to get through cover. That's the other thing about cover too. When you're in real heavy cover and you're rolling that bait through like a tree line, if that rod's too stiff, when it hits, you know, branch or whatever, it's almost like it wants to keep going that way, where if you have a rod that has a little more give and it bounces off a rod, it almost bows back down to that bait, kind of getting out of trouble and allowing that retrieve to continue. So understanding the type of rod is super important, not just about length, but about action and about materials that it's made out of. Have something, you know, like a flat side special is great for most situations. 7-foot rod, not too long, not too short. You can fish it in cover. You can fish it out of cover. I really like that in both the Levante or the XX Orochi. But whatever line of rod you're looking at, make sure that that rod has some bend in it. It's going to help you get more fish to the boat. It's going to help you fish it better. All right? That's it. I'm done. See you later.